now you can see our wonderful Assemblywoman will be here, and then let her to give us some speech. And she is a strong supporter of our anti-Asian subgrouping issues. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I take it off the deal?
There we go. Hi, I am Catharine Baker. I represent the 16th Assembly District, which is in the California State Assembly, so in the legislature, and I'm in my, I finished 3 years. I feel like a sophomore in high school. I was a freshman last year, now I'm a sophomore. I'm a neighbor. I live in Dublin. I've lived in the East Bay for 20 years. And I am a parent of school-age twins. I'm very efficient. I had a boy and a girl all at once. And they're in high school at Dublin High. They're freshmen. I have a hard time getting my head around that. And I'm very grateful to get to visit with you today. Thank you for getting started and getting organized and being a part of this community and being active. Before I say a little bit about what I've been up to and would love to answer some questions, I want to underscore what really terrific Mayor Jerry Thorne said, and your leader Sylvia. You can be active and have an impact on our community, and in fact, I very loudly encourage you to do that because you're affected by everything that happens in our area. Our children are together affected, and for my purposes of representing our area, it doesn't matter to me if someone is a naturalized citizen, if they lived here, they're a part of our community. I really want to represent you, and so that's sort of an overarching theme that I have. Tell you a little bit about what I do. So the 16th Assembly District includes all of the Tri-Valley area: Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore, San Ramon, and Danville. It goes all the way up to Orinda and Walnut Creek. And my number one issue that caused me to run for Assembly, and that I fight on in the legislature, and there's a lot to work on, I will tell you, is education. I had seen when my kids were in elementary school how our schools, particularly right after the Great Recession, were really needing more help from the state. And things that were helping teachers and students were getting cut, and things that were not as important were the only things that were getting funded, and our local school districts didn't have the flexibility to do what they needed to do. And the state made it tougher. And like many parents in this room, I think all across our community, I literally went to the principal and I said, "What thankless committee have you not put me on yet? I mean, I've got more cookie dough in my freezer than just about anybody else." And to solve these issues and to be working on our curriculum, on excellent teachers in every single classroom, on excellent principals at every single school, and all the support that we need. And he said, "There isn't a committee like that. There isn't one nearby." I said, "Well, who was responsible for this?" And it was the state. And so that's why I ran for state assembly in 2014. I'm vice chair of the Higher Education Committee, and that's allowed me to focus on K through 12, as well as our higher education opportunity. My number one issue I've worked on these last 2 years has not only been funding for our schools, but making sure there's equal opportunity for our kids. And I want to tell you how many of us met before I was even elected, and the legislature, again, the state of California, not your local school board, but the state of California wanted to divide Californians and give less support to Californians based on their country of origin and their ancestry and their background. SCA 5 happened in 2014, where there was an effort to limit admissions for students who are from Asian ancestry, which I found to be completely un-American, and fought very strongly to make sure that we had a voice opposing those efforts. Since I've been in the legislature, we've had other attempts to bring back those type of efforts. There's been a concern. Folks were saying there's an overrepresentation of children from one background or another in our UC system. And there's been effort after effort coming before the committee to try to divide people on those lines. I fight for all of our kids, every single one, to have an individual opportunity, and it's our job to protect that. And it goes back 20 years when Proposition 209 was first passed in California, which was to end affirmative action in school admissions and other government services. And I was a supporter of that on national television as a law student at my law school, the only one who was willing to stand up in a camera to say that. I've also been working really hard to make sure that the University of California doesn't give preferential treatment to students from out of our state. Whether you are a citizen or not, or whether or not you are registered to vote, Californian schools are for Californians first. but our University of California system lowered the admission standards for out-of-state students in order to charge them more tuition and more money. They let 16,000 students in over a 2-year period under lower academic standards. So this year, it passed legislation, the governor signed it, it was bipartisan, that says you can't do that anymore. If you're from out of our state, somewhere else in the United States, and you want to come to California, great, that's part of our experience at university, but you have to meet or exceed the standards that our kids are compared to, the kids that you have that are working so hard and learning so well. And I was proud the governor signed that last term, and we'll keep working on that. And so those are some of the issues that I've been very passionate about. I think about it every day when I drive back and forth. I drop off the kids at school, I drive up to Sacramento and come back. What can we be doing for educational opportunity for our kids? My minivan has a lot of miles on it, I will just tell you. And we're just starting a new term in the legislature. And there's a lot of hyper-partisan politics, which I have little flavor or interest in, because we need to be working on our priorities. I'm also going into an election year, and you will find that you're going to get a lot of mail and information about elections. You live in the #1 swing seat in the entire legislature, which means you're going to be in an area that will control if there's going to be more balance in the legislature, hopefully by re-electing me, or if we're going to go back down a partisan path. And I firmly believe that good ideas don't come from just one party. You've got to get your ego out of it and be fighting with other people for what matters. And it works. It makes you one of the most effective members you could possibly be. And so I'm going to be on the ballot in June. I think Jerry is on the, Mayor Thorne, sorry, is on the ballot in November. And I have to have signatures to get on the ballot. And so, and Kathy's also on the ballot? I didn't realize that. See, I keep thinking it just happened. It goes by quick. Kathy Merrim as well. We work really hard for our schools and our communities together in the legislature. And so I'm going to have Will raise his hand. He's with our campaign team. In order for us to get on the ballot, we have to have signatures of residents who say, I would at least like to have an opportunity to vote for Catharine Baker again. And if you live in Dublin, Pleasanton, or Livermore, the Alameda County part of the district, he's got just a petition that says, I'd like to have Catharine Baker on the ballot. That's all it says. And he's got one if you happen to live in Contra Costa County, he's got that too. And
We'll sign it.
times, yes, you will sign it.
To sign it.
You got it. Will's going to bring it on up. And so I would be honored for your signature and an opportunity to earn your support, and happy just to answer any questions you have, if I can do that. I was going to go into a whole long 20-minute speech, but nobody wants that. So I'd much rather hear the questions, but thank you. Thank you for having me.
And for the beautiful Assemblywoman, let's ask questions. It's a golden opportunity to communicate with her.
Or feedback. If you have, like, Catherine, could you please be working on this, or what's the status of that? I'd love to hear from you.
And actually, I wanted to let you know she works really hard and fight hard for us. And she is the voice. She can represent our community. She has perfect English, better than me. But she knows how to work in the government. And she would like to voice out our concern. So support her. I wish that you can support her. But anyway, I will, because I can vote.
You are sweet. Thank you. And I'll think of a little, speaking of language, a little bit of background. My very first trip away from home when I was growing up in Southern California was to Asia when I was 15. Stayed with a family in Korea and in Beijing and in Taipei and Hong Kong and Japan for a whole summer as part of a student exchange trip. And it left an amazing impact on my life. And I am very, very privileged to be in a community where I still get to connect with cultures from all across the Asian continent. And I just want to say thank you. My dad, you may run into my dad sometimes, looks older than I am, fluent in Mandarin. And so if you're walking down, he taught English to folks in Taiwan when he was in the Marines. And so I don't speak Mandarin, my dad does. And I appreciate that you said my English skills are good. I'm going to tell my kids that you said that. Anyway, thank you for that. And any questions or feedback? What would you like me to work on? Yes?
So, yeah, 2 years ago, you actually called my number and about asking me to vote for, even though I already decided to vote for you, because when I vote for local officer or state, I don't by party. I just say who is the person, what it is, you know.
That is a good way to do it.
Yeah, I pick you and then and you still, talking about 9% or less. That's great. Thank you so much. So my question is how, because obviously we are Republican in this smaller group here. So how do you deal with bipartisan?
Yeah, great. So great question. I'll just repeat it. You're Republican, Catherine. I am. I'm a lifelong Republican. I do believe in a limited, restrained government. I believe in free market principles, devolving decision-making to the most local, accountable level possible. And those are some, and viewing people as individuals and not as having policies driven by group identity. These are the things that make me fundamentally Republican. But I'm the only Republican elected to any office in the Bay Area that's partisan office. And there's a lot. So I don't think I'm an endangered species. I'm sort of a seed trying to grow. I was found by the Sacramento Bee, when they analyzed all of our legislative votes and records last year, to have the most bipartisan record of any assembly member. And what matters to me is how can I be the most effective for our community? And that is in fiercely fighting for what I believe in and looking for people on both sides of the aisle who also agree. There's a lot we disagree about right now, and that's what we only hear about most of the time. And it's important to stand up when you really see something you do not like or believe in and be vocal, but it's also important to say what you are for. And interestingly enough, there are lots of people who agree. The UC bill about not lowering admissions for out-of-state students was co-authored by 2 Democratic colleagues and I. That was important, and it was signed by a Democratic governor. The legislation I passed in the prior year to put a cap on out-of-state students at UC also was bipartisan. I think every bill I've introduced, or almost every bill, has been bipartisan. I just believe that. And it's in part because I knew once I got elected, I don't just represent Republicans. I represent everyone in the I'm the only voice for people who live in this district in the Assembly, and you have to take that seriously. And I'm proud that I have had 16 bills land on the governor's desk in education, in smarter tax and transportation policy, protecting our kids from harm and public safety. All of them have been signed and had no vetoes. Even though I'm the #1 target in politics, because there's a tendency to want to keep everybody in the legislature in a supermajority. So those are the principles that I try to bring to it and have a bipartisan record. And I have a few colleagues who help with that. You know, Senator Steve Glazer has been someone. We have a pension program that we're doing on Monday night. We do a lot of town halls together. We do a lot of legislation together. A bill that I just had signed by the governor to improve our transportation in the Tri-Valley area by connecting BART with the commuter train in the Central Valley was also co-authored by a Democratic member. So you got to get things done. First of all, I can't get anything passed with just talking to Republicans. We're really in the minority. And finally, when I was re-elected, very grateful for that in last November, 42% of the people who voted for me were not Republican, because you have to look for where you have common ground. So that's important, I think. And thank you for voting for me. I will work hard every single day to earn it. So thank you. That was too long an answer. I'm sorry.
Any more questions?
One more question.
Yes.
So I became a citizen last year. Has not
Fantastic.
just voted yet. But so the basic question: if I like a politician and would like to support her or him, other than voting, and what else? What other ways we can support?
I have opportunities for you to do that. And voting, first of all, is very important. And please vote in every single election, not just the presidential elections. If it's only a dog catcher on the ballot, make sure you vote in that election every single time, for 2 reasons. One, it's how your voice is heard. And 2, there are political forces that if they see that you don't show up to vote, they won't knock on your door and ask you for their vote. They look and they say, oh, this person's only shown up in the last few elections, so or hasn't done it. I'm not going to bother knocking on their door. They don't think you care. They don't want to hear from you. And I really fight back when that happens. So make sure you vote in every election. Ways to help. Number 1, I'm going to give you 3. Number 1 is sign that petition that Will has. He's going to raise his hand again, because that I have to have signatures in order to even be on the ballot. And so I'd be grateful for that. 2, volunteer. And you can volunteer at all levels of government, but please come in and volunteer. Our campaign office opens February 1st. We're going to be in Bishop Ranch, so right near the Whole Foods in San Ramon, centrally located. And we will be calling other voters and saying, please vote for Catherine. we'll be writing in postcards saying, please vote for Catherine, she's gonna be on your ballot in June, and we'll be knocking on doors of neighbors. And so volunteer, and you can even help in other ways in the office. And a third way is, well, I probably have more than that, but third way is financial support. The first time I was elected in 2014, it was a $9 million race. It was the most expensive assembly race in the country. I'm sorry, in the state, and I think I raised $700,000 of that. The rest was outside. Last cycle was also very expensive. It was about $6.5 million. Again, mostly from outside groups. And a lot of people raise money in Sacramento, and that's all they focus on. I feel important to earn the support of the community. So make sure you sign the petition, volunteer, and support candidates whenever you can with your financial contributions. And I think it's the same for any leaders that you agree in. I know Mayor Thorne's going to be on the ballot, and Councilman Bonero, they'll have to have their signatures signed, and they'll need the financial resources to get those lawn signs out there, which is another way. Sign up for a lawn sign, and last one. Someone is 7 times more likely to vote for me if you just tell them I'm voting for Catherine Baker. That's it. Is that if they hear from someone they know or like a live person, they're going to say, okay, that one sticks in my mind. And you can tell them through your social media, through, yes, emails. You can just post near election day, I'm going to do this, and just by talking to someone. We also have meet and greet coffees in someone's home, where we bring all the coffee and goodies. Sometimes people do cocktails, you know, it's pretty racy, but and you invite neighbors and friends and colleagues, and we have very informal conversation about issues, and they all leave with a lawn sign and some more familiarity with the process. So all those ways are great ones to help. The list goes on longer, but thank you for asking that. Every candidate should be grateful when someone asks that question. So
for
thank
volunteers,
you. Yes.
for volunteers, how old is the barrier? Can I have my kids in school to be volunteer for?
Yep, absolutely. In fact, so can your family participate? We always, first of all, my kids are great precinct walkers. They used to get a lollipop at the end of a precinct, and now they have more demands. But they come into the office, and for kids, sometimes they can help fill out the postcards and just say, hey, my mom's friend is running for office. Can you please vote for her in June? I guarantee you someone's going to read that. They can help us assemble some packets that we have for volunteers, and they can help us decorate our office. But families are very, very warmly welcome. And visiting with your neighbors, which sometimes knocking on the door and visiting with neighbors in your area, say, hey, I'm voting for Catherine Baker, is a wonderful way to go for a walk with your kids. We have a lot of families who participate. And kids who are in high school or college, we have internship programs for, which we do make it serious, where they're going to learn some real skills about speaking with others and maybe some writing skills. And I work to have a letter of recommendation possible for them at the end because they've taken the time to be involved in one of the most significant ways, and that's volunteering their community. And so we have internship applications too, and do that. So all of that are great ways to help, and thank you. So yeah, we will let you know when our office is open. I'm going to contact you and get the word out about it, and you will know all about it. Also, I do have an event coming up with San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer. He's a Republican mayor of a heavily Democratic town. I think he's going to be governor in California someday. And on January 29th, I mean, this is one of the largest cities in the country, San Diego. He's tackled pension reform, he's tackled transportation and housing reform, and he's got a great bipartisan record. He's coming up to do a speaking event for me, and it's going to be on January 29th. I'll get you the flyer if you want to share it with folks. And be grateful to hear from you. All right, too much of my voice. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this moment.
Okay, he's been waiting for this.
So actually, a simple question. In the past several years, California has passed many, actually, from my perspective, kind of nonsense, kind of bizarre, and kind of very weird kind of bills. And just one of them, I just heard that maybe from this year or maybe next year, that all high school students, they don't need to work hard to get at least a high school diploma or graduation, some degree or something. So does that mean we don't care anymore? It looks like this is statewide. It doesn't care whether they behave well or they perform well. They can get something once they get in. I mean, are we kind of trying to lower standard, or I understand that each student, they have their individual or kind of married or properties, each one of them have their own characteristics, but certain common criteria or something that we're losing all of them, or just what's the?
Sure, and you're right about wacky bills. The day that the gas and car tax was passed last April, which I did not support, was the same day that the legislature passed a resolution designating a state dinosaur. And I said to my colleagues, you're about to take billions of dollars more from California and you want to spend some time designating a state dinosaur. There have been a lot of crazy bills. One of the ones that I think you might be referring to is the removal of the requirement that in order to graduate from high school you have to pass an exit exam. I did not support that, very vocally against it, precisely because I think it is a gross disservice to kids and it takes away an important measure of accountability. If folks found there were flaws in the exam to exit, maybe it wasn't aligned anymore with the Common Core curriculum, which is another debate that folks have, or students weren't passing the exam, you don't take the exam away. And since the exam has been taken away, there has been an increase in students who have been unable to complete even basic requirements to get into community colleges and into four-year university. I was just looking at these statistics last night because I'm writing an article on education policy, and I was looking back at this, and it just came out in the last month. Of our 9th graders, only 30% of them, by the time they graduate, are going to be qualified and able and ready to enter four-year university and community college. 30%. That is wrong. And it's our state failing our kids. Taking away the exit exam takes away opportunities not only for accountability, but a goal that you have to meet. We're basically saying, we don't know what skills you have, but you're going to be able to graduate regardless. And I will try to explain the rationale behind that. I think they found that some folks said, first of all, the exit exam was under the old curriculum and not the Common Core curriculum. You can fix that, okay? You get a new exit exam. And the second one is they felt it was penalizing people and keeping them from starting their life next. And number one, you need to make sure, as a state, you have given them the skills they need in math, reading, science, basic survival to do that. So, pretty extreme policy that I did not support, and it underscores the reason why you have got to have people who are not wacky when it comes to education policy fighting in Sacramento. So I think that's the one you're referring to. Yes?
UC system.
Yes.
So we can increase higher education.
Ah.
If we go California first, that means the school will get less money from foreigner, from other.
Glad you asked that. Yeah, great question. So with University of California, are we going to see a tuition increase? Because if we focus on California students first, that might mean they're getting less money from tuition, and UC has been saying we need to do that. So first of all, the University of California Regents this next coming week, the next week or 10 days, is going to decide on a tuition increase. They raised tuition last year, and since I have been in the legislature, I have voted every time for increased education funding for not only UC, but K through 12 and community colleges and CSU. They have received increases in their budget. The governor's budget that came out a week ago calls for increases in their budget. At the same time, they've seen an explosion in their administrative costs. The number of administrators, not teachers and professors, but administrative positions they have per student. Explosion. They also took a holiday from their pension fund, meaning paying into their pension fund, for 18 years. They just stopped paying into the pension fund, so now they have huge pension costs. And finally, last year, an independent state audit, nonpartisan, audited the Office of the President, you may have seen this in the news, and found $175 million just in one office, the Office of the President, tucked away and not disclosed to the public at the same time that tuition was being increased. So my belief is, yes, we need to fund the education system more, particularly UC, but it has to be tied to their getting their budget house in order. They don't get a blank check, because they have had a problem just keeping track of their own budgets. That audit that came out had 33 recommendations for how they were unable to show how they spend their money. They need to get their financial house in order before they go anywhere near a tuition increase. That's my belief. And finally, on this, when the University of California changed its admission policies, it was in 2010, when we were in real bad economic times. And they raised the number of out-of-state students, and they said if we go above 10% of our students from out of state, we're going to start hurting Californians. it's an average of 18% now. And at Berkeley and UCLA, it's in the 20s. And they've been getting increased funding, and we're no longer in the bad economic times, so we need them to go back to 10%. The very number they said would start displacing our own kids. So I feel passionate about that one. I know it's a long answer, but that's my sense. We absolutely need to support them with financial resources, but they've got to get their house in order, and they don't. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me very much. I appreciate it. Will has the signature, so come on back and please sign to get us on the petition. I don't think Mayor Thorne or Catharine needs those until the fall. So July, okay, so be on the lookout for theirs at that time. And again, February 1st, when we open our campaign office and we have events, I'm gonna share it with you, spread the word. Connect with us on social media, that's basically my website. You know, that's the way to connect, social media. And please consider joining us on working on it. I'd be very grateful to earn your vote. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah, and then I really encourage you, all the citizens, to go and sign that petition, because Catherine did voice out our concerns. She is in the same value as us, so let's support a candidate like Catherine Baker to help us to put the community together, to get rid of those weird bills and those unaccountable, free giving out high school graduation diplomas things happening in this California. So let's support Catherine Baker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.